The air was cool and sweet on the evening of March 10th, as the sun dipped low over the rolling hills of Greencrest, Indiana. The old Carver estate, a sprawling garden venue just outside town, was alive with the hum of celebration. Strings of Edison bulbs crisscrossed above the wooden dance floor, casting a golden glow that flickered like fireflies against the dusk. The scent of blooming roses drifted on the breeze, mingling with the faint tang of barbecue from the caterer's grill. Guests milled about in clusters, their laughter rising over the clink of glasses and the rustle of spring leaves in the towering oaks that framed the scene. It was Ellie Carver's wedding day, and everything was damn near perfect except for the hole in her heart where her daddy should be been. Ellie stood near the edge of the reception area, her white dress catching the light like something out of a dream. It wasn't one of those big, poofy gowns you see in magazines, just a simple, elegant thing with lace along the hem that whispered against the grass when she moved. Her dark hair was swept up in a loose bun, a few strands falling free to frame her face, and her hazel eyes shimmered with a mix of joy and something quieter, something she couldn't shake. She clutched a glass of sweet tea, the ice clinking softly as she took a sip, her free hand brushing the locket around her neck, a tiny silver oval with a faded photo of her father inside. She'd worn it every day since she was 6, since the night he didn't come home. "God, you look gorgeous, babe," Jake Monroe said, sidling up beside her. He was all broad shoulders and easy grins, his gray suit jacket unbuttoned over a white shirt that hugged his frame just right. His sandy hair was a little mussed from the wind, and his blue eyes sparkled with the kind of love that made Ellie's chest ache in the best way. He slipped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. "You holding up okay?" Ellie leaned into him, her head resting against his shoulder for a second. "Yeah," she said, her voice soft but steady. "It's just, I always pictured him here, walking me down the aisle, dancing with me." "Silly, huh? After all this time?" "Nah," Jake said, his tone gentle. "I'm silly at all. I'd give anything to make that happen for you, Elle." He kissed the top of her head, then pulled back with a grin. "Hey, speaking of dancing, what happened to the band? I thought they'd be setting up by now." Ellie frowned, her brow creasing. "They canceled yesterday. Some storm grounded their flight out of Nashville. I figured you'd hooked up a playlist or something." Jake's grin widened, a little mischief in it now. "Oh, I did better than that. Trust me, babe, I found us a fix last night. You're gonna love this guy." She tilted her head, curious. "What guy?" "Jake, what do you do?" "Just wait," he said, winking. "It's a surprise. First dance is gonna knock your socks off." Before she could press him further, a ripple of quiet spread through the crowd. Heads turned toward the small wooden stage at the far end of the dance floor, where a lone figure stepped into the pool of light. Ellie squinted, trying to make him out. He wasn't part of the plan. She'd spent months with Jake picking every detail, from the blush pink roses to the mason jars full of wildflowers on the tables. This guy didn't fit. He was tall and wiry, his frame swallowed by an old flannel shirt that hung loose over faded jeans. His hair was a mess of silver-streaked brown, falling into his eyes, and his face was lined with the kind of weariness that comes from too many hard years. In his hands, he carried a beat-up acoustic guitar. The wood scratched and the strings rusted at the edges. "Who the hell is that?" Ellie muttered, glancing at Jake. Jake said, his hand squeezing hers. "Give him a sec. You'll see." The man adjusted the microphone with a shaky hand, the stand wobbling slightly as he cleared his throat. The crowd hushed, a few whispers floating through. "Who's this guy? Looks like he just rolled out of a ditch." Ellie felt a flicker of unease. He didn't belong here. Not in this picture-perfect moment she'd dreamed of since she was a kid, twirling in her pajamas to her daddy's music. But then he strummed the first chord, and the world stopped. It was a soft, lilting melody, warm and familiar, like a memory she couldn't quite place. The notes danced out of the guitar, raw and pure, cutting through the chatter and the clink of glasses. Ellie's breath caught, her grip tightening on Jake's hand. She knew this song. She knew it. Her heart started pounding, a wild drumbeat against her ribs, as the man's fingers moved over the strings with a tenderness that didn't match his ragged exterior. And then he sang. His voice was rough, weathered by time and hardship, but it carried a soul-deep ache that hit her like a freight train. Hush now, my darlin'. The stars are so near, close your sweet eyes. There's nothing to fear, the words spilled out, each one a knife twisting in her chest. She froze, her glass slipping from her hand and shattering on the grass, sweet tea soaking into the earth. Her eyes locked on the man, wide and wet with tears she didn't even feel coming. Jake, she whispered, her voice breaking. That's my daddy's song. Jake turned to her, his grin faltering. What were you? It's his song, she said, louder now, her voice trembling with disbelief. He wrote it for me. Ellie's song. Oh my God, Jake. That's my daddy's song. The man kept playing, oblivious to the storm brewing in her chest. His voice grew stronger, the melody weaving through the air like a thread pulling at her soul. Sleep now, my angel. I'll always be here, my heart's in this song. Forever. My dear, she stumbled forward, her heels sinking into the soft ground, her hands shaking as she pushed through the crowd. Faces blurred around her, her mom, her friends, strangers in suits and dresses, but none of it mattered. All she could see was him, the stranger who wasn't a stranger, singing the lullaby she clung to every night since she was 6. Sir, she called, her voice cracking as she reached the edge of the stage. Sir, please. The man's fingers faltered, the notes shivering into silence. He lifted his head and their eyes met. For a heartbeat, the world stood still. His face, those deep-set eyes, that crooked nose, the faint scar above his brow, it was like looking into a mirror of her past, weathered and worn but unmistakable. His mouth parted, a question hovering there, unspoken but deafening. And then something broke inside him. His chest heaved, his breath catching on a name he hadn't said in years. Ellie? He rasped, his voice barely a whisper. My Ellie? Daddy? She choked out, tears streaming down her face. The guitar slipped from his hands, the strings twanging in protest as it hit the stage. His knees buckled, but she was already moving, her gown whispering against the wood as she climbed up and threw herself into his arms. He caught her, his grip desperate, trembling, like he was afraid she'd vanish if he let go. She buried her face in his chest, the flannel rough against her cheek, the smell of sweat and old leather filling her lungs. It was him. It was really him. Daddy, she sobbed, her voice muffled against him. It's you. Oh God, it's really you. Ellie, he said again, his voice shattering as he clutched her tighter. My baby girl. I found you. I never stopped looking, I swear. His tears fell hot against her hair, his body shaking with the weight of every lost year crashing down on him. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I'm so damn sorry. The crowd was silent now, a hush so thick you could hear the wind rustling the leaves. Then a gasp broke through a sharp, trembling sound from the back. Ellie pulled back just enough to see her mother, Maggie, pushing through the guests. Her face was pale, her dark eyes wide with something fragile, something that teetered between hope and heartbreak. She pressed a hand to her mouth, her voice a whisper lost in the air. Tom? Oh God. Tom, is that you? He looked up, his arms still locked around Ellie, and when he saw Maggie, his breath hitched. Maggie, he said, her name a prayer on his lips. It's me, darlin'. He stepped forward, Ellie still clinging to his side, and Maggie closed the distance in a heartbeat. She crashed into him, her arms wrapping around them both, her sobs breaking free as she buried her face in his shoulder. I thought you were gone, Maggie wept, her voice raw. I thought I'd lost you forever. I was, he said, his throat thick with emotion. But I found my way back. I found you both. Ellie felt Jake's presence before she saw him, a steady warmth at her side. He stepped up, his eyes shining with tears he didn't bother to hide. Tom, he said, his voice tight. I had no idea. I met you last night. I heard you playing on the street, and I knew your music belonged here. I didn't know it'd bring you home. Tom's gaze shifted to him, gratitude and awe flickering in his eyes. You, he said, his voice rough. You brought me back to her. To them. Thank you, son. Thank you. Jake swallowed hard, his hand finding Ellie's. She my heart, he said simply, and now she got hers back. The silence broke then, a soft wave of applause rippling through the crowd, not for the song, but for something bigger, something sacred. Ellie clung to her father, her mother, her husband, the world shrinking to the four of them standing there, whole again after years of being torn apart. She looked up at Tom, her voice trembling but fierce. You came back, Daddy. You came back to me. He brushed a tear from her cheek, his rough fingers shaking. I never stopped singing for you, kiddo. Not for a damn second. And as the applause faded into the night, one question lingered in the air, heavy and unanswered. Where had Tom Carver been all these years? What had kept him away? And how had that song, that fragile, unbreakable thread, brought him home? The autumn of 2010 in Greencrest, Indiana, carried a crispness that settled into your bones, the kind of chill that made you crave a warm house and a hot meal. Inside the Carver home, a squat little ranch house with peeling white paint and a sagging porch, the air smelled like cinnamon and apples, thanks to Maggie's pie cooling on the kitchen counter. The living room was a cozy mess. A threadbare red rug stretched across the hardwood, a second-hand couch with a quilt tossed over the arm, and a coffee table littered with Ellie's crayons and half-finished drawings. Outside, the wind rattled the branches of the big maple in the yard, sending golden leaves spiraling down like confetti. It was a Thursday night, and Tom Carver was perched on a stool by the window, his old Gibson guitar resting across his knees. Ellie, all of 6 years old, was curled up beside him on the floor, her dark hair spilling over a pillow she dragged from her bed. She wore her favorite pajamas, pink with little white stars, and her hazel eyes sparkled as she watched her daddy's fingers dance over the strings. The room glowed soft from a single lamp in the corner, casting long shadows that flickered with every strum. Tom's voice, warm and a little gravelly, filled the space as he sang Ellie's song, the lullaby he'd written the day she was born. Hush now, my darlin', the stars are so near, close your sweet eyes. There's nothing to fear. Daddy, Ellie piped up, her voice small but bright. Will you always sing me my song? Tom grinned, the corners of his eyes crinkling. He was a lanky guy, pushing 40, with a mop of brown hair that always looked like it needed a trim. His flannel shirt was rolled up to his elbows, showing off hands calloused from years of strumming. Every night, kiddo, he said, ruffling her hair. It's ours forever. Auntie, nobody taking that from us. She giggled, snuggling closer, her cheek pressed against his knee. Play it again, till I fall asleep. All right, you win, he chuckled, starting the tune over. But you gotta close those eyes. Deal? Deal, she mumbled, already yawning, her lashes fluttering as the melody wrapped around her like a blanket. Maggie poked her head out from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She was a sturdy woman with a kind face, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. Flour dusted her apron, and she smelled faintly of vanilla. You're spoiling her, Tom, she teased, leaning against the doorway. She's gonna expect a concert every night till she's 30. Wouldn't he be the worst thing? Tom shot back, winking at her. Better than her listening to that pop crap on the radio. Maggie laughed, shaking her head. You're hopeless. That pie's almost cool. Want a slice before you head out? Nah, save me some for later, he said, setting the guitar down as Ellie's breathing slowed into the steady rhythm of sleep. He eased himself up, careful not to wake her, and crossed the room to Maggie. Gotta get to that charity gig in Milford. They're counting on me to bring in a few bucks for the food bank. She reached up, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead. You're too good, you know that? Driving half an hour just to play for free. It ain't free if it helps somebody, he said, pulling her into a quick hug. I'll be back before midnight. Promise. Better be, she said, her voice softening. Ellie want her goodnight kiss. Tom grinned, grabbing his jacket from the hook by the door, a beat-up denim thing that smelled like wood smoke and old leather. He crouched by Ellie, brushing a kiss across her forehead. Sleep tight, kiddo, he whispered. I'll sing you our song when I get home. The drive to Milford was a quiet one, just Tom and his pickup rumbling along the back roads. The sky was a deep indigo, streaked with clouds that glowed faintly under the moon. Cornfields stretched out on either side, their stalks brittle and golden in the headlights. The radio crackled with static, barely picking up a station some old Lynyrd Skynyrd tune, Sweet Home Alabama, fading in and out. Tom tapped his fingers on the wheel, humming along. The window cracked just enough to let the cool air whip through. He was tired teaching music at Greencrest Elementary all day. Then fiddling with lesson plans for the free after-school classes, he ran for kids whose folks couldn't pay. But gigs like this, they kept him going. Music was his soul, and if he could use it to put food on somebody else's table, well, that was worth a late night. The rain started as a soft patter, little drops speckling the windshield. He flicked on the wipers, their steady thump-thump cutting through the quiet. Just a few more miles, he muttered to himself, picturing Ellie's sleepy smile when he sneak in to kiss her goodnight. The road curved ahead, slick with wet, the streetlights blurring into amber streaks. He turned the radio down, focusing on the drive, when a glare of headlights sliced through the dark too bright, too close. Shit, the word barely left his mouth before the screech of tires filled the air. A truck big, hulking, out of control swerved across the center line. Tom yanked the wheel hard, his heart slamming into his throat, but there was no time. Metal crunched against metal, a deafening roar that drowned out everything else. The pickup spun, glass shattering like a gunshot, the world tilting into a blur of pain and chaos. His head cracked against the window and then nothing, just silence, thick and black, swallowing him whole. Back at the house, Maggie was washing dishes, the sink piled high with mixing bowls and spoons. The clock on the wall ticked past 10, then 11, and a knot started tightening in her gut. Tom was late sometimes. Sure, crowds loved him, always begging for one more song, but he promised. She dried her hands, glancing at Ellie still asleep on the floor, the quilt pulled up to her chin. The phone sat quiet on the counter, mocking her with its stillness. "Simon, Tom," she muttered, pacing to the window. The rain was heavier now, drumming against the roof, and the street outside was empty. She grabbed the phone, dialing his cell straight to voicemail. "Hey, it's me," she said, her voice tight. "Where are you, hon? Call me back. Okay?" Midnight came and went. Ellie stirred, rubbing her eyes as she sat up. "Mommy? Where's Daddy?" Yes, running late." "Baby," Maggie said, forcing a smile. "Go back to sleep. He'll be here soon." But he wasn't. At 1 a.m., the phone finally rang, and Maggie snatched it up, her heart in her throat. "Tom? Mrs. Carver?" The voice was flat, official, a cop. "This is Officer Daniels with the County Sheriff's office. We found your husband's truck on Route 12. There's been an accident." Maggie's knees buckled, her hand gripping the counter. "What? Is he okay? Where is he?" "We don't know, ma'am," the officer said, and the words hit like a punch. "The truck's totaled, looks like a bad collision. But he wasn't there. No sign of him at the scene." "What do you mean, not there?" she snapped, her voice rising. "He's hurt. He's gotta be hurt. Where did he go?" "We're looking, ma'am," Daniel said, calm but useless. "We've got folks searching the area. Could be he wandered off, disoriented. We'll keep you posted." The line went dead, and Maggie stood there, the phone slipping from her hand. Ellie toddled over, tugging at her apron. "Mommy, is Daddy coming home?" Maggie sank to the floor, pulling her daughter close, her voice breaking as she lied. "Yeah, baby. He's coming home. He's just talking a little longer tonight." Outside, the rain pounded harder, washing away the last traces of Tom Carver's pickup and any clue to where he'd gone. The night stretched on, cold and endless, and in that little house on Maple Street, two hearts waited for a man who wouldn't walk through the door. The hospital room in Indianapolis smelled like bleach and despair, a sterile sting that clung to the back of your throat. It was late November 2010, a few weeks after the crash on Route 12, and Tom Carver lay in a narrow bed, surrounded by machines that beeped and hummed like a chorus of restless ghosts. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow across his bruised face, purple splotches blooming under his eyes, a jagged cut stitched up along his temple. His hair was matted with sweat, sticking to his forehead, and his hands twitched faintly against the thin white blanket. Outside, the city churned on, horns blaring faintly through the double-paned window. But in here, time felt stuck, heavy with the fog that clouded his mind. He'd been out cold for days after they found him sprawled in a ditch half a mile from the wreck, soaked to the bone and half frozen. No wallet, no phone, just a crumpled pack of smokes in his jacket pocket and a shard of glass lodged in his arm. The cops had no idea who he was, and neither did he when his eyes finally fluttered open. The room spun as he blinked against the light, a dull ache throbbing behind his skull. A nurse in blue scrubs leaned over him, her voice sharp but kind. "Sir, can you hear me? You're in the hospital. You've been in an accident." Thomas' mouth felt like sandpaper, his tongue thick as he tried to speak. Where am I?" His voice came out a croak, barely his own. "Methodist Hospital, Indianapolis," she said, scribbling something on a clipboard. "You're lucky to be alive. Can you tell us your name?" He stared at her, her face blurring at the edges. His mind was a blank slate, a black void where answers should be been. "I don't know," he rasped, panic flickering in his chest. I can't remember." The nurse frowned, glancing at the doctor who just stepped in, a wiry guy with glasses and a tired slump to his shoulders. "No ID on him when they brought him in," she murmured. "Cops are still looking into the truck, but it's registered to a Tom Carver out of Greencrest. That ring any bells?" Thomas' brow furrowed, the name bouncing around in his head like a marble in an empty can. "Tom," he repeated, tasting it. Felt familiar, maybe, but it didn't click, didn't bring anything back. "I don't know. There's just this song." "A song?" The doctor raised an eyebrow, adjusting his glasses. "What kind of song?" Tom closed his eyes, and there it was, soft, lilting, threading through the haze like a lifeline. "Hush now, my darlin'," he hummed faintly, the melody spilling out unbidden. "'Tis all I got. Keeps playing in my head, over and over." The doctor exchanged a look with the nurse. "Traumatic brain injury," he said under his breath. "Amnesia's not uncommon with a hit like he took. Could come back in pieces or not at all." "Great," the nurse muttered, then turned back to Tom with a forced smile. "All right, honey, we'll call you Tom for now, seeing as it's all we've got to go on. You got family we can call? Somebody who might know you?" Tom's chest tightened, an ache blooming where someone should been. "I don't know," he said again, his voice cracking. "I feel empty, like there's supposed to be something, but it's gone." They kept him for weeks, running tests, poking and prodding while his body healed cracked ribs, a busted shoulder, a concussion that left him dizzy if he moved too fast. The cops came by once, a stocky guy with a buzz cut and a notepad. "We've been trying to track down this Tom Carver fella," he said, chewing on a toothpick. "Wife reported him missing after the crash, but the trail's cold." "You sure you don't remember anything?" Tom shook his head, staring at the ceiling. "Just the song," he mumbled. "That's it." The cop sighed, flipping his notepad shut. "Well, if you're him, you've got a little girl waiting on you back in Greencrest. 6 years old, cute as a button. Maybe that LL jogs something. A little girl." The words hit like a brick, stirring something deep, a flicker of warmth, a laugh he couldn't place. But it slipped away as fast as it came, leaving him grasping at shadows. "I don't know her," he said, his voice hollow. "I don't know anybody." When they finally cut him loose, it was with a pat on the back and a paper bag of donated clothes, jeans 2 sizes too big, a faded Colt sweatshirt, a pair of scuffed boots. No insurance, no ID, no place to go. The hospital couldn't keep him, and the bills were piling up faster than they could send him. "Try the shelters," the social worker said, handing him a list of numbers scribbled on a napkin. "Good luck, Tom." He wandered out into the gray sprawl of Indianapolis, the wind biting through the thin sweatshirt. The city was a beast, cars roaring past, horns blaring, people shoving by without a second glance. He hitched a ride north with a trucker who didn't ask questions, landing in Chicago by nightfall. The streets there were colder, harder, the skyline a jagged wall of steel and glass that swallowed the stars. He found a spot under a rusted overpass, the concrete damp against his back, the rumble of traffic overhead shaking through his bones. Hunger gnawed at his gut, but he didn't know where to start, didn't he know how to be this person, this nobody with no past. Days bled into weeks. He learned the rhythm of survival dumpsters behind diners for scraps, doorways to dodge the wind, the hollow stares of folks who looked right through him. One morning, half dead from the cold, he stumbled across a battered guitar leaning against a trash bin in an alley off Clark Street. The neck was cracked, the strings dull with rust, but it felt right in his hands, like a piece of himself he hadn't lost. He sat there, knees pulled up against the ache in his ribs, and let his fingers find the notes. Hush now, my darling, the song poured out, shaky but alive, echoing off the brick walls. For the first time since waking up in that hospital bed, he felt something, comfort, maybe, or a tether to whatever he'd been before. A kid stopped to listen, a scrawny boy in a puffy jacket, maybe 8 or 9, his sneakers soaked from the slush. "That's pretty, mister," he said, his breath puffing out in little clouds. "You make that up?" Tom looked up, startled, his fingers pausing on the strings. "I don't know," he said, his voice rough from disuse. "It's just there. Been with me since I woke up." The kid grinned, digging a crumpled dollar from his pocket and tossing it at Tom's feet. "Keep playing. Makes the day less sucky." Tom stared at the bill, then back at the kid as he ran off, disappearing into the gray blur of the street. His chest warmed, just a flicker, but it was enough. He picked up the guitar again, the melody spilling out stronger now, cutting through the noise of the city. People passed, some tossed a coin, some sneered, most didn't care, but he kept playing. It was all he had. This song he couldn't explain, this ghost of a life he couldn't remember. And somewhere, deep down, he wondered who it was for who left this ache in his heart that wouldn't let go. Night fell, the cold sinking deeper into his bones. He curled up under the overpass, the guitar clutched tight, humming the lullaby to himself as the wind howled through the steel beams. "Sleep now, my angel," his voice faded into the dark. A promise he didn't understand. A thread stretching out to someone he couldn't name. Wherever they were, he hoped they could hear him. Hoped they'd wait. Hey folks, if this story's tugged in at your heartstrings, hit that subscribe button to keep up with Tom's journey. We're just getting into the thick of it. Drop a comment, what do you think is gonna happen next? Where's Tom headed with that song of his? Can't wait to read your thoughts. Catch you in the next chapter. Chicago in the winter of 2012 was a beast with teeth, wind howling off Lake Michigan, slicing through the streets like a blade. Tom Carver had been on the move for over a year now, a ghost in a city that didn't give a damn. He shuffled along the cracked sidewalks of the West Loop, his boots crunching over a thin layer of dirty snow. The Colts sweatshirt hung loose on his frame, patched with duct tape where the seams had split, and his jeans were stiff with grime. The guitar slung over his shoulder bounced against his back, the strap frayed but holding. His breath puffed out in short, ragged clouds, his beard scruffy and streaked with gray he didn't remember earning. The cold wasn't just weather out here, it was a living thing, clawing at his skin, seeping into his joints until every step ached. The streets smelled like exhaust and wet trash, a sour tang that mixed with the faint whiff of grease from a diner a block over. Tom's stomach growled, a hollow rumble he'd learned to ignore most days. He'd gotten good at scavenging, knew the back alleys where the good stuff got tossed. There was a pizza joint on Halsted that threw out half-eaten pies around midnight, a bakery on Randolph that left day-old bagels in the dumpster if you hit it early enough. Today, though, he'd come up empty, and the hunger was starting to blur his edges. He ducked into an alley off Madison, the wind cutting off for a blessed second behind a row of overflowing bins. He sank down against the brick, the concrete icy through his jeans, and pulled the guitar into his lap. His fingers were stiff, red from the cold, but they knew what to do. He strummed a soft chord, the sound bouncing off the walls, rough but true. "Hush now, my darling," the lullaby came out low, a whisper against the city's roar. It was his anchor, the one thing that hadn't slipped away in the fog of his busted memory. He didn't know where it came from, didn't know why it made his chest ache like a bruise that wouldn't heal, but it was his. He played it on street corners, under bridges, in the hollowed-out shells of abandoned lots anywhere he could sit long enough to breathe. Sometimes folks dropped a quarter or a crumpled bill, mostly they just walked by, eyes sliding past like he was part of the pavement. A guy in a ratty coat staggered into the alley. Sam, one of the regulars Tom had come to recognize. He was older, maybe 60, with a face like crumpled leather and a limp from some war he never talked about. "Still at it, huh?" Sam said, his voice a gravelly rasp as he leaned against the wall. He clutched a paper bag, the neck of a cheap bottle poking out. "Yeah," Tom muttered, his fingers moving over the strings. "Keeps me going." Sam nodded, taking a swig that made him wince. "That song's all you got, man. Don't let it go. Makes this shithole feel less lonely." Tom glanced up, managing a half smile. "You sticking around?" "Nah. Gotta find a spot before the shelters fill up," Sam said, hobbling off. "Keep playing, Tommy. Somebody's listening." The alley emptied out again, just Tom and the wind. He closed his eyes, letting the melody fill the space, picturing something. Face, maybe a kid's laugh, soft and bright. It flickered in his mind, there and gone, leaving him grasping at air. "Who the hell am I singing for?" he muttered, his voice lost in the strum. The question gnawed at him, same as it did every day, but there was no answer, just the song, looping endless in his head. He'd been out here long enough to learn the rules. Stay out of the wind when you could. Don't sleep too deep or you'd wake up with your stuff gone or not wake up at all. He'd had his share of run-ins, guys with fists looking for a fight, cops rousting him from warm spots, punks who kicked him awake just for laughs. Last week, he scored a decent coat off a church handout, only to have it snatched 2 nights later by some twitchy junkie with a knife. "Gimme that or I'll gut ya," the guy had snarled, and Tom let it go. Wasn't he worth dying over? The guitar, though, that was different. He'd fight for that, had fought for it. The memory hit him sometimes, sharp and sudden. A month back, down by the river, 3 kids couldn't been more than 19 cornered him under a bridge. They were drunk, loud, reeking of beer and weed. "Play something, old man," one of 'em slurred, kicking at his boot. Tom obliged, picking out the lullaby, hoping they'd leave him be. But the tallest one, a wiry bastard with a shaved head, sneered and grabbed for the guitar. "Gimme that piece o' junk." "No," Tom said, yanking it back, his voice steady despite the fear spiking in his gut. "You ain't talking this." The kid laughed, shoving him hard. Tom stumbled, the guitar clattering against the concrete, and then they were on him, fists slamming into his ribs, a boot catching his jaw. Blood filled his mouth, coppery and warm, but he curled around the guitar, taking the hits. "Fucking bum," one of 'em spat as they finally backed off, bored or tired, leaving him bruised and gasping. He'd lain there for hours, the river lapping cold against the bank, humming the song through split lips till the pain dulled enough to move. That was the life out here, cruel 1 minute, indifferent the next. But there were glimmers, too. Like the old lady who ran the hot dog stand on State Street, she'd slip him a sausage sometimes, wrapped in a napkin with a gruff "don't tell nobody." Or the kid from that first day, the one with the dollar, who'd pop up now and then, always grinning. "Still playing, mister?" He'd ask, and Tom nod, tossing him a riff just to see him smile. Those moments kept him human, kept him from sinking all the way down. He shifted against the wall now, the cold creeping up his spine. The alley was quiet, save for the distant wail of a siren and the clatter of a train rumbling past. He played louder, letting the notes chase off the dark. A woman in a long coat paused at the mouth of the alley, her heels clicking on the pavement. She looked tired, bags under her eyes, lipstick smudged like she'd been crying. She stopped, listening, then dug a 5 from her purse and dropped it at his feet. "That's beautiful," she said, her voice soft. "Sounds like something I'd sing to my girl when she was little." Tom's throat tightened, that ache flaring again. "Thanks," he managed, his fingers faltering for a second. "Glad you liked it." She nodded and walked off, her shadow swallowed by the streetlights. He stared at the bill, then tucked it into his pocket, enough for a coffee and a burger if he stretched it. But it wasn't the money that stuck with him, it was her words. "Something I'd sing to my girl." He leaned his head back, closing his eyes. Was that it? Was this song for somebody's kid his kid? The thought twisted in him, sharp and fleeting, but the fog wouldn't lift. Just the song, always the song. He stayed there till the cold got too much, then hauled himself up, joints creaking like an old door. The streets stretched out ahead, endless and unforgiving, but he kept moving, kept playing. Under bridges, on corners, in the glow of neon signs that flickered like dying stars. Sleep now, my angel, it was his prayer, his fight, his question to a world that didn't answer. And somewhere, in the mess of it all, he held onto a scrap of hope that whoever he was singing for, they were out there, waiting for him to find his way back. Hey y'all! If Tom's stories got you hooked, smash that subscribe button. We're talking this ride together. Drop a comment and tell us, what's keeping Tom going out there? Think he'll ever figure out who that song is for? Can't wait to see what you reckon. See ya in the next chapter. The winter of 2018 hit Chicago like a freight train, snow piling up in drifts that turned the streets into a gray, frozen maze. It was mid-December, and Tom Carver felt the cold in every inch of his battered body. He'd been out here for years now, 7, maybe 8, he'd lost count, surviving on scraps and stubbornness. His boots, scavenged from a shelter giveaway 2 seasons back, were splitting at the soles, letting slush seep in to numb his toes. The duct-taped sweatshirt barely held together, and his jeans hung loose on hips that gotten too thin. The guitar, though that old, cracked thing was still with him, slung over his shoulder like a lifeline, its strings dulled by rust but singing all the same. He'd set up under the I-90 overpass tonight, a spot he liked for the way it cut the wind. The concrete was stained black with grime, the air thick with the rumble of cars overhead and the faint stink of diesel. Snow swirled down in lazy flakes, sticking to his beard and melting into icy drops that ran down his neck. His fingers ached as he tuned the guitar, the cold making him stiff and clumsy, but he didn't care. He needed the music, needed it like air. He strummed a soft chord, the sound bouncing off the steel beams, and started into Hush Now, My Darlin'. His voice was rougher now, worn down by years of shouting over traffic and coughing through damp nights, but it still carried that ache, that pull he couldn't shake. The overpass wasn't empty, never was. A few others huddled nearby, shadows wrapped in blankets and cardboard. There was Sam, coughing into his sleeve a dozen yards off, and a woman Tom didn't know, her face hidden under a hood as she rocked back and forth, muttering to herself. They didn't talk much, just nodded sometimes, a quiet understanding between folks the world had kicked to the curb. Tom kept playing, the lullaby weaving through the dark, and for a minute, it felt like it held them all together, like it could keep the cold at bay. Footsteps crunched through the snow, sharp and fast. Tom didn't look up at first. People passed through all the time, usually ignoring him, but the steps stopped close, too close. He glanced up, mid-strum, and saw 3 figures looming over him. Kids, maybe 18 or 19, bundled in puffy jackets and beanies, their breath steaming in the frigid air. One of them, a skinny guy with a buzz cut and a smirk reeked of beer, a can dangling from his hand. Well, look at this, he slurred, kicking at the snow near Tom's boots. Old man S got himself a little concert. Tom's gut tightened, but he kept his voice steady. Just playin', he said, fingers still moving over the strings. Auntie hootin' nobody. Playin'. Another one mocked a stocky kid with a chipped tooth, his laugh high and mean. What's that shit you're singin'? Sounds like something my grandma hum. Leave him be, Kyle, the third one muttered, shifting on his feet, but he didn't step in. Tom caught the glint of a phone in his hand, probably filming, the little bastard. Nah, I want to hear more, Buzzcut said, stepping closer. He nudged Tom's guitar with his sneaker, hard enough to make the strings twang. Simon, bum. Play something good. Tom's jaw clenched, but he started the lullaby again, slower this time, hoping they'd get bored and move on. Close your sweet eyes, the notes trembled, his hands shaking from more than just the cold now. Buzzcut laughed, a sharp bark that echoed under the bridge, and kicked again, this time at Tom's leg. Fuck this, he sneered, snatching for the guitar. Gimme that junk. No, Tom snapped, yanking it back, his voice cutting through the haze of fear. You ain't takin' this. Walk away. Buzz Cut's smirk vanished, his eyes narrowing. What do you say, old man? He shoved Tom hard, sending him sprawling against the concrete, the guitar clattering beside him. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he scrambled to shield it, curling his body around the wood. The first punch landed on his ribs, a dull thud that stole his breath. Then a boot caught his jaw, snapping his head back, blood flooding his mouth hot and bitter. He grunted, tasting copper, but didn't let go. Fucking loser, Chip Tooth spat, aiming another kick. The third kid just watched, phone steady, his laugh shaky. Tom took the hits, the world blurring into a mess of snow and shadows, the lullaby looping silent in his head. They kept at it fists, feet, curses until Buzz Cut stumbled, panting, and waved him off. Ain't worth it, he muttered, spitting into the snow. Let us bounce. They staggered away, their laughter fading into the night, leaving Tom crumpled against the wall. Blood trickled down his chin, soaking into his sweatshirt, and his ribs screamed with every shallow breath. The guitar lay beside him, one string snapped, the body scuffed but whole. He reached for it, hands trembling, and pulled it close, the cold wood pressing against his chest. Sleep now, my angel, he whispered, voice cracking, barely audible over the wind. He didn't know how long he lay there, minutes, hours, snow piling up around him, the overpass groaning above. His mind drifted, slipping into the dark, and then he heard it. A voice, small and sweet, singing with him. Daddy, don't stop. It was faint, a dream or a ghost, but it lit something inside him warm and fierce. His eyes snapped open, the cold biting harder now, and he pushed himself up, snow crunching under his palms. Blood dripped onto the white, stark and red, but he didn't care. He staggered to his feet, clutching the guitar, and shouted into the storm, voice raw and ragged. I'm still here. You hear me? I'm still here for you. Whoever you are. The words echoed, swallowed by the wind, but they burned in him, a fire he hadn't felt in years. He wasn't done, not yet. He limped back against the wall, breath heaving, and started playing again, the broken string buzzing but the melody holding. The song was his fight, his promise, and he'd keep it going till it led him somewhere, anywhere. A shadow moved through the snow, slow and steady. Tom tensed, ready for more trouble, but it was just a guy tall, maybe 30, in a beat-up hoodie and jeans, carrying 2 steaming cups. He stopped a few feet away, his face half lit by the glow of a distant streetlight. Jesus, man, he said, voice low and warm. You look like hell. What happened? Tom wiped blood from his lip, shrugging. Kids, he muttered. Didn't like my plan. The guy crouched down, setting 1 cup in the snow beside Tom. Smells like coffee, Tom said, eyeing it. Black as night and hot as hell. The guy said with a grin. Name's Jack. So you take a beating back there, figured you could use something warm. You playing out here in this mess? Yeah, Tom said, wrapping his numb fingers around the cup. The heat seeped into his skin, chasing off the ache for a second. Keeps me sane. Jack nodded, sipping his own coffee. Heard you from down the block. That song, it's got soul. You ought to be inside, not freezing your ass off. Tom snorted, a dry laugh that hurt his ribs. Ain't got an inside to go to. Jack studied him, eyes steady but kind. There's a soup kitchen a couple streets over. Open late tonight, serving hot meals till midnight. Come with me, man. Get outta this cold. Tom hesitated, pride prickling under the exhaustion. He made it this long on his own, didn't he need handouts. But the coffee was good, and Jack's voice didn't carry that pitying tone he hated. All right, he said finally, voice hoarse. Just for tonight. Jack clapped him on the shoulder, gentle, mindful of the bruises, and helped him up. Good call. Bring that guitar. Might warm more than just you in there. Tom followed, the snow crunching underfoot, the lullaby still humming in his throat. The night was brutal, but that spark, the one the song had lit, wasn't going out. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. The soup kitchen on Chicago's near West Side, Wasn't he much to look at a squat brick building wedged between a pawn shop and a vacant lot, its windows fogged with steam and streaked with grime. But inside, it was a different world. The air hit Tom Carver like a warm slap, thick with the smell of beef stew and fresh baked rolls. A far cry from the diesel-soaked chill of the overpass. It was late December 2018, just past 10 p.m., and the place buzzed with quiet life tables crammed with folks in mismatched coats. Spoons clinking against bowls, murmurs weaving through the hum of a space heater rattling in the corner. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a soft glow over chipped linoleum and walls plastered with flyers about job fairs and free clinics. Tom shuffled in behind Jack, his boots leaving wet tracks on the floor. The coffee from earlier still warmed his hands, but his ribs ached with every step, a dull reminder of the beating he'd taken. His guitar hung over his shoulder, the snapped string dangling like a loose thread. Jack nodded toward a table near the back. "Grab a seat," he said. His hoodie unzipped to show a faded Bears t-shirt underneath. "I'll get us some grub." Tom eased onto a wooden chair, wincing as his bruised shoulder brushed the wall. The room was full of faces like his, worn, hollow, etched with stories nobody bothered to hear. An old guy with a patchy beard slurped soup across from him, his hands trembling around the spoon. A woman in a knit cap rocked a sleeping kid on her lap, whispering something soft under her breath. They didn't look at Tom, didn't need to. Out there, you kept your eyes down, and here you just ate and breathed. Jack came back with 2 bowls steaming with stew, chunks of potato and carrot swimming in thick brown gravy, and a plate stacked with rolls. "Dig in, man," he said, sliding into the seat opposite. "I'm gourmet, but it'll stick to your ribs." Tom didn't argue. He tore into a roll, the crust flaking under his fingers, and shoveled a spoonful of stew into his mouth. It was hot, salty, damn near perfect after days of nothing but stale bread and dumpster scraps. "Thanks," he mumbled between bites, his voice rough. "Been a while since I ate something this good." Jack grinned, leaning back with his own bowl. "Yeah, they do all right here. Run by a church crew, volunteers mostly. I pitch in when I can. Beats freezing out there, right?" Tom nodded, swallowing hard. "You do this a lot? Helpin' folks?" "Whenever I ain't workin'," Jack said, shrugging. "Got a gig drivin' delivery pays the rent. But this place, I dunno, feels like where I'm supposed to be. You ever think about sticking around somewhere like this?" Tom's spoon paused halfway to his mouth. "Ain't thought about much 'cept stayin' alive," he said, eyes on the bowl. "Been out there too long, I guess." Jack studied him, his easy grin softening. "You've got a gift, Tom. That song, I heard it's something special. Don't waste it out there in the cold." Tom's throat tightened, that familiar ache stirring. "It's all I got left," he said quietly. "Feels like home somehow, don't even know why." Jack didn't push, just nodded and kept eating. They finished in silence, the warmth of the food sinking into Tom's bones, easing the edges of the day. When the bowls were empty, Jack leaned back, wiping his hands on his jeans. "They got cots upstairs if you want to crash. No questions asked." "Beats the pavement." Tom hesitated, pride prickling again, but the thought of a real bed, even a thin one, was too damn tempting. "All right," he said, voice low. "Just tonight." That night turned into days, then weeks. The soup kitchen became a lifeline, hot meals, a dry spot to sit, a chance to breathe without the wind clawing at him. Tom started helping out, washing dishes, sweeping floors, hauling boxes of canned goods from the delivery truck. It wasn't much, but it gave him something to do, something that wasn't just surviving. The regulars warmed to him slow. There was Hank, a wiry ex-accountant with a dry laugh, who lost everything in the 08 crash and never climbed back. "You're all right, Tom," he'd say, clapping him on the back. "Got a good head on ya, even if it's busted." Then there was Ruby, a broad-shouldered woman with a voice like a foghorn and a heart bigger than the room. She'd mother everyone, shoving extra rolls into their hands, barking at em to eat up. Skinny as a damn rail, she'd grumble at Tom, piling his plate. "Gonna fatten you up for spring." Jack was the constant, always there with a coffee or a quick word, never asking too much. One night, a few months in, he caught Tom strumming the guitar in the kitchen after cleanup. The room was quiet, just the hum of the fridge and the clink of a mop bucket somewhere down the hall. "Damn, man," Jack said, leaning against the counter. "You play like you're telling a story. Ever thought about sharing it?" Tom's fingers stilled, the broken string buzzing faintly. "I'm too much to share when you don't know who you are," he said, voice low. "Just this song been with me since I woke up in the hospital. Don't even know where it came from." Jack crossed his arms, thoughtful. "Maybe it's trying to tell you something. You ought to play it for folks here, they could use a little soul." The idea stuck. A week later, on a snowy Friday, Tom hauled his guitar out to the dining room after supper. The tables were still full, folks lingering over coffee and stale donuts. He sat on a stool by the heater, nerves jangling, and started into "Hush Now, My Darlin'." The room went quiet, heads turning slow. Hank set his mug down. Ruby stopped mid-sentence. Even the kid in the knit cap stilled on her mom's lap. The melody filled the space, raw and steady, and for once, Tom didn't feel invisible. Faces softened, eyes closed, some wet with tears they didn't bother to hide. When he finished, the silence hung heavy, then broke with a soft clap from Hank, then Ruby, then the whole damn room. "Play another," Ruby called, her voice thick. "Gimme something to feel, Tommy." He did old folk tunes he didn't know he knew, bits of blues that came out of nowhere, but always circling back to the lullaby. It became a thing after that, nights when he play, folks gathering like moths to a flame. They sit, listen, sometimes sing along in cracked voices, and for a few minutes the weight of the world lifted. Jack watched it all, a quiet pride in his grin. "Told ya," he said one night, tossing Tom a roll from the kitchen. "You're giving 'em something they ain't had in years." Tom took the roll, tearing off a piece. "Hope, maybe," he said, half to himself. "Feels good, I guess." "It's more than hope," Jack said, leaning forward. "It's like you're reaching out to them, to whoever that song is for. Don't stop, man." Years ticked by, 2019 into 2020, then 2021. The soup kitchen turned into a shelter proper, cots lining the upstairs, and Tom stayed. He fixed the guitar with strings Jack scrounged up, kept it tuned, kept playing. The world outside shifted, pandemics, lockdowns, streets emptier than full again, but in here, he found a rhythm. Hank taught him card tricks, Ruby slipped him socks she knitted from donated yarn, and Jack was always there, a steady hand pulling him back from the edge. He didn't know who he'd been, didn't know what he'd lost, but this was something. A place, maybe not home, but close enough to feel human again. One night in 23, after a quiet set, Jack sat with him, 2 chipped mugs of coffee between them. "You ever wonder who you're singing for?" Jack asked, voice low over the hum of the heater. Tom stared into the steam, the lullaby looping in his head. "Every damn day," he said. "Feels like they're out there, waiting. Just don't know how to find 'em." Jack nodded, sipping slow. "Maybe they'll find you. Keep playing, Tom. That song's got a lead somewhere." Tom didn't answer, just picked up the guitar and strummed it again, soft, steady, a beacon in the dark. He didn't know where it'd take him, but for the first time in years he felt like it might matter. Hey, why all? If Thomas Findin his footing got you hooked, smash that subscribe button. We're rolling deeper into this tale. Drop a comment. Who's that song calling out to? Think Tom's gonna stay at the shelter or chase something bigger? Let us know what's on your mind. Can't wait to see your thoughts. Next chapter's coming hot. The air in Greencrest, Indiana, on March 9th, 2025, was thick with the promise of spring, cool but softening. The scent of damp earth and budding lilacs drifting through the open windows of the Carver house. Inside, Ellie Carver stood in her childhood bedroom, the late afternoon sun spilling gold across the hardwood. She smoothed the white lace of her wedding dress against the mirror, her fingers tracing the delicate stitching along the hem. It was simple, elegant, just how she wanted. No frills, no fuss, just her. The room hadn't changed much since she was a kid. Same creaky twin bed with the faded quilt, same corkboard pinned with old Polaroids and ticket stubs, but the quiet felt heavier now, layered with a longing she couldn't shake. Maggie bustled in from the kitchen, her apron dusted with flour, a tray of cookies in her hands. She'd been baking all day, nervous energy, Ellie figured, keeping her busy so she wouldn't dwell on tomorrow. You sure you don't want me fussin' with your hair tonight? Maggie asked, setting the tray on the dresser. Her voice was warm but tight, like she was holding something back. Ellie smiled, turning from the mirror. Nah, Mom, I'm good. Jake's sister's gonna do it in the morning. You've got enough on your plate. Maggie nodded, brushing her hands on her jeans. Just want to make sure it's perfect, honey. You only get one wedding day. She paused, her eyes catching on the locket around Ellie's neck, the one with Thomas' picture. The one she'd never taken off. He'd be so proud of you, Elle. You know that, right? Ellie's throat tightened, her fingers brushing the silver. Yeah, she said softly. I always thought he'd be here, walking me down that aisle, dancing with me. Silly, huh? Ain't silly, Maggie said, stepping closer to pull her into a hug. I feel it too. Every damn day. They stood there a minute, the hum of the fridge downstairs filling the silence, until Ellie's phone buzzed on the bed. She grabbed it, frowning at the screen. It's Jake, she said, swiping to answer. Hey, babe, what's up? Hey, Elle. Jake's voice came through, a little rushed. You sitting down? Got some bad news. Her stomach dropped. What? Don't tell me the caterer bailed. Nah, food is fine, he said. And she could hear the wind whipping past him. He must have been outside. It's the band. Storm S got their flight grounded in Nashville. They ain't making it tomorrow. Ellie sank onto the bed, the quilt bunching under her. You're kidding me. Jake, what were we gonna do? That was our first dance, everything. I know, he said, his tone steady but urgent. I'm working on it, babe. Don't worry, I've got a plan. Just trust me, all right? She sighed, rubbing her temple. Okay, but it better be good, Monroe. It will be, he said, a grin sneaking into his voice. Love you. See you tomorrow. Love you too, she muttered, hanging up. Maggie raised an eyebrow and Ellie waved a hand. Band S out. Jake says he's fixin' it. God, I hope he's not just hooking up his phone to some speakers. Maggie chuckled, patting her shoulder. That boy D move mountains for you. He'll figure it out. Across state lines in Chicago, Jake Monroe was already on the move. He'd driven up that afternoon for a last-minute bachelor hangout with his buddies, nothing wild. Just beers and pool at a dive bar off Wicker Park. The call from the band had come an hour ago, and he'd stepped outside to clear his head, the wind tugging at his hoodie as he paced the sidewalk. The street was alive with Saturday night cars honking, neon signs buzzing, folks spilling out of bars with laughter and smoke. He needed music for tomorrow. Ellie deserved that much. Deserved the first dance she'd dreamed of since she was a kid, spinning to her daddy's guitar. Playlist wouldn't cut it. He needed something real. That S when he heard it, a sound cutting through the city's din. Raw and rich, like a heartbeat wrapped in strings. He turned the corner onto Milwaukee Avenue, boots crunching over salt-strewn pavement. And there he was, Tom Carver, though Jake didn't know it yet. The man sat on a milk crate under a flickering streetlight, his guitar cradled close, fingers moving over the strings with a tenderness that didn't match his ragged look. His flannel was patched, his hair a mess of silver and brown, and his voice, God, that voice was rough as gravel but full of soul. Hush now, my darling, the lullaby spilled out, weaving through the cold, and Jake stopped dead, his breath catching. Holy shit, he muttered, stepping closer. A handful of folks lingered nearby, some tossing coins into a battered coffee can. Others just listening, heads tilted like they'd forgotten where they were. Jake stood there till the last note faded, the wind swallowing it up, then moved in as the small crowd drifted off. That was incredible, he said, crouching down to Tom's level. What's your name, man? Tom looked up, startled, his hands stilling on the guitar. His eyes were deep set, shadowed but kind. Tom, he said, voice low and weathered. Just Tom. Jake, he replied, offering a hand that Tom shook slow, cautious. You play like that all the time? 'Cause I ain't heard nothing like it. Tom shrugged, a faint smile tugging his lips. Whenever I can. Keeps me going. Jake's mind raced, pieces clicking into place. Look, I know this is out of nowhere, but I need someone to play at my wedding tomorrow. Our band canceled storm screwed em over and I think your music's exactly what the night needs. You up for it? Tom blinked, the words sinking in slow. A wedding? He echoed like he was tasting the idea. His fingers tightened on the guitar, something flickering in his chest distant. Private. Where at? Greencrest, Indiana, Jake said, grinning now. Hour and a half south. I'll drive you, pay you decent $100, plus food and a warm place to crash. What'd I say? Tom stared at him, the wind whistling through the street. Wedding's music, something about it brushed against his heart. An ache he couldn't name. He didn't know why it felt big, why it pulled at him, but he nodded, slow and sure. All right, he said. I'll play. Hell yeah. Jake clapped his hands, standing up. You just saved my ass, Tom. Meet me here tomorrow morning. 8 sharp, I'll swing by with the truck. Bring that guitar and that voice and we're golden. Tom managed a nod, watching Jake jog off into the night, his hoodie disappearing around the corner. He sat there a minute longer, the coffee can rattling with a few coins as the wind kicked up. A wedding, he muttered to himself, strumming the lullaby again, soft and low. Felt right, crazy maybe, but right. He didn't know what he was walking into. Didn't know the miracle waiting on the other end. But something in his gut hummed louder than the city noise. Back in Greencrest, Ellie stood on the porch as the sun dipped below the trees, painting the sky in streaks of pink and orange. The air was cool against her skin, the locket warm where it rested on her chest. She closed her eyes, humming Ellie's song under her breath, a habit she'd kept since she was 6. Wherever you are, Daddy, she whispered, I hope you're watching tomorrow. In Chicago, Tom packed up his crate, the guitar slung over his shoulder as he shuffled toward a sheltered doorway for the night. He hummed the same tune, the notes threading through the dark, 2 voices calling across years and miles they didn't know were closing fast. Tomorrow, the road would take him somewhere, maybe nowhere, maybe everywhere. He didn't know yet, but he'd play. He always did. The morning after the wedding, March 11th, 2025, dawned gentle over Greencrest, Indiana, sunlight spilling through the lace curtains of the Carver house like a soft promise. The air carried the faint sweetness of last night's roses, still lingering from the reception, and the kitchen hummed with the gurgle of a coffee pot brewing strong. Ellie Carver, now Ellie Monroe, sat at the old oak table, her wedding dress swapped for a pair of faded sweats and one of Jake's hoodies. Her dark hair hung loose, tangled from a night of restless sleep, and her hazel eyes were red-rimmed but bright, fixed on the man across from her. Tom Carver, her daddy, was back, really back, and she couldn't stop staring, like he might vanish if she blinked. Tom looked different in the daylight, softer somehow. His flannel shirt was still patched and worn, his silver-streaked hair a mess, but the lines on his face seemed less harsh under the warm glow of the kitchen lamp. He cradled a chipped mug of coffee, his hands steady for the first time in years, calluses brushing the ceramic. The guitar rested against the wall by the door, its scuffed body catching the light, a quiet witness to the miracle that unfolded last night. Maggie bustled at the counter, flipping pancakes on a griddle that hissed and popped, her apron dusted with flour again. She hadn't stopped moving since they'd gotten home, like keeping busy held her together. Ellie reached across the table, her fingers finding Tom's, squeezing tight. I still can't believe it, she said, her voice thick. Last night I thought it was a dream, Daddy. Thought I'd wake up and you'd be gone again. Tom's throat bobbed, his eyes glistening as he squeezed back. So did I, kiddo, he said, rough and low. Woke up this morning pinching myself, making sure it was real. You're here. You're grown. God, Ellie, you're so damn beautiful. She laughed, a shaky sound that broke into a sob, and swiped at her eyes with her sleeve. You're here too. That's what matters. I don't even know where to start, where you've been, what happened. I need to hear it. Maggie slid a stack of pancakes onto the table, golden, steaming, dripping with syrup, and sat down, her hands trembling as she gripped her own mug. Me too, she said, her voice quiet but firm. Tom, we looked for you. Everywhere. The cops, the hospitals, nobody knew where you went. What happened that night? Tom set his coffee down, his gaze dropping to the table, tracing the grain of the wood like it held answers. I don't know how to explain it all, he said, slow, like the words were fighting him. That night the crash, I woke up in a hospital in Indy, beat to hell and back. Doc said I'd been out for days. Found me in a ditch half a mile from the truck. No wallet, no phone, nothing. And my head, he tapped his temple, wincing. It was gone. All of it. Who I was, where I came from, just a big, black hole. Ellie's breath hitched, her hand tightening on his. You didn't remember us? He shook his head, pain flickering across his face. Not a damn thing. Not my name, not you, not Maggie. Just this song. He hummed it soft. Hush now, my darlin', and Ellie's eyes welled up again, recognizing it instantly. It was all I had. Kept playing in my mind, over and over, like it was trying to tell me something. But I couldn't figure out what. Maggie's mug clattered against the table, her voice breaking. We thought you were dead, Tom. The truck was smashed to bits, blood everywhere, and you were just gone. I called every hospital, every shelter. Ellie wouldn't sleep without that song. Kept saying you'd come back to sing it. I'm so sorry, Tom said, his voice cracking as he reached for her hand too. I didn't know I couldn't know. They let me out of the hospital with nothing, and I ended up in Chicago. Streets took me in and I just survived. Played that song every day, hoping it'd find you. Even when I didn't know who you were. Ellie wiped her eyes, fierce now. Did find us. Last night you played it and I knew. I knew it was you, Daddy. Tom's lips trembled, a tear slipping down his cheek. When I saw you, heard you sing it back, everything came rushing in. You, Maggie, this house, every damn note I ever played for you. It was like waking up all over again. The back door creaked open, and Jake stepped in, his boots muddy from the yard. He'd been out feeding the neighbor's dogs, some excuse to give them space, but his blue eyes softened at the sight of them. Mornin', he said, hanging his jacket on the hook. Smells like heaven in here, Maggie. Sit, she said, shoving a plate his way. Your family now eat. Jake slid in beside Ellie, his arms slipping around her shoulders. How you holdin' up, babe? He murmured, kissing her temple. Better than I ever thought I could, she said, leaning into him. Yes, back, Jake. You brought him back. Jake's gaze shifted to Tom, a mix of awe and humility in it. I had no idea, man, he said, voice thick. I just heard you playing on that street last night, knew your music had soul. Didn't know it'd bring you home. Tom reached across, clapping Jake's shoulder, his grip firm. You did more than that, son, he said, eyes shining. You brought me back to my girls. I played that song every damn day, hoping it'd reach em, and you made it happen. Thank you. Jake swallowed hard, his hand finding Ellie's under the table. She's my heart, he said simply, and now she's got hers back. That's all I wanted. Maggie sniffled, swiping at her face with a napkin. You're stuck with us now, Jake, she said, a shaky laugh breaking through. No getting rid of this mess of a family. Wouldn't he dream of it, he said, grinning as he speared a pancake. They ate then, the clink of forks and the drip of syrup filling the quiet. It wasn't perfect, years of pain didn't vanish overnight, but it was whole. Tom watched Ellie and Maggie, memorizing their faces, the way Ellie scrunched her nose when she laughed, the way Maggie's hands still moved like they had when she baked for him. He lost so much time, but he found them again, and that was more than he dared hope for on those cold Chicago nights. Later, as the sun climbed higher, Jake found Tom out on the porch, the guitar across his lap, fingers hovering over the strings. The air was crisp, the yard streaked with dew that caught the light. Jake leaned against the railing, hands in his pockets. Mind some company? He asked. Never, Tom said, a small smile tugging his lips. He strummed a soft chord, the sound warm against the morning chill. I owe you more than I can ever say, Jake. You didn't just marry my daughter, you brought her daddy home. Jake shook his head, voice steady. You were always on your way back to her, Tom. I just helped the music reach her ears. Tom's fingers paused, his eyes meeting Jake's, fierce and grateful. You didn't just help, you became part of the song. You're family now, son. And family don't leave nobody behind. Jake's throat tightened, but he nodded, a quiet understanding passing between them. "She's my life," he said. "And so are you now. We're in this together." The chords picked up again, a melody rich and full, and they sat there, the notes threading through the air like a promise kept. Inside, Ellie and Maggie laughed over dishes, their voices carrying through the screen door, and for the first time in years, Tom felt the pieces of himself slotting back into place, not perfect, not whole yet, but close. He'd been lost, but he was home, and that was enough to start again. Hey folks, if this family reunion-esque got you teary, hit that subscribe button. We're keeping the heart coming. Drop a comment. What's next for Tom and the Carvers? Think he's ready to rebuild what he lost? Tell us what you're feeling. We're all ears. Catch ya in the next chapter. The summer baked Chicago in a sticky haze, the kind of heat that shimmered off the asphalt and turned the air into a thick, heavy soup. Tom Carver stood outside a rundown warehouse on the city's south side, sweat beading on his brow as he squinted up at the faded brick. The building was a relic, cracked windows, graffiti curling over the walls like ivy, a rusted fire escape dangling loose, but to him, it was a canvas. Beside him, Ellie and Jake unloaded a pickup stacked with paint cans and lumber, their laughter cutting through the hum of traffic a block away. The dream had taken root months ago, back in the quiet of that Greencrest kitchen, and now it was growing rough, messy, but real. Tom wiped his hands on his jeans, the denim patched at the knees, and hefted a toolbox from the truck bed. "This place looks like it's one good wind from fallin' over," he said, half grinning as he glanced at Ellie. "You sure we ain't bit off more than we can chew, kiddo?" Ellie adjusted her ball cap, her dark hair pulled back in a sweaty ponytail, and shot him a look. "Daddy, we've been through worse. You lived on the streets. I think we can handle a fixer-upper." Jake chuckled, hauling a plank over his shoulder. "She's right, Tom. Besides, you've got me swinging a hammer. What could go wrong?" "Plenty," Tom said, but his eyes crinkled with a smile. "Let us get to it." The idea had sparked that first morning after the wedding, Tom sitting with his girls, the weight of lost years pressing on him, and a fire kindling in his chest. He'd survived the streets, carried that song through every frozen night, and found his way back. But it wasn't just about him anymore. "I spent too long just getting by," he'd told them, voice steady over coffee and pancakes. "Those years, they weren't empty. They were full of people who saved me, folks the world forgot. I want to give them something back, more than a song. A chance." Ellie had leaned in, her hand on his. "Then let us do it together, Daddy. You taught me music's about connection, let us use it." Jake had nodded, resolute. "You're not alone in this, Tom. We'll build something that lasts." They called it Harmony House, a place for the lost, the struggling, the ones who slipped through the cracks. Not just a shelter, but a home with music at its heart, a school, a stage, a lifeline. The warehouse was dirt cheap, a city cast-off they scraped together funds for with donations and every dime they could spare. It'd taken months, late nights planning over beers, Ellie sketching layouts, Jake haggling with suppliers, but here they were, breaking ground. Inside, the air was stale, dust swirling in shafts of light that pierced the broken windows. Tom set the toolbox down, the clang echoing off bare concrete. "Start with the walls," he said, rolling up his sleeves. "Gotta make it tight for winter." They worked through the day, paint rollers slapping color over graffiti, hammers pounding nails into fresh frames. Ellie sang as she went, bits of old folk tunes Tom had taught her, her voice bouncing off the rafters. Jake hauled debris to a dumpster out back, his shirt soaked through, cracking jokes to keep him going. "If this falls apart," he called, wrestling a warped board, "I'm blaming your old man's carpentry skills." "Elle, blame yourself," she shot back, grinning. "You're the one swinging the hammer." Tom watched them, a warmth spreading in his chest that had nothing to do with the heat. This was his family rebuilt, stronger, and they were doing something bigger than themselves. By dusk, the first wall stood painted, a soft blue that glowed in the fading light, and they collapsed onto folding chairs, passing a thermos of iced tea. "It's a start," Tom said, wiping his brow. "Gonna take a hell of a lot more, though." "We'll get there," Ellie said, fierce. "One step at a time." Fall came, then winter, then spring 27. Harmony House rose slow, volunteers trickling in, folks from the soup kitchen pitching hands, donations piling up after Ellie spread the word online. Tom went back to the streets, sometimes not to live, but to play. His guitar case open for coins he funneled into the project. He detailed his story between songs, lost years, a song that found him home and people listened. A local news crew caught it one day, ran a segment that went viral, and checks started coming, small but steady. By summer 28, the warehouse was transformed. The roof was patched, windows replaced, the main room a wide, warm space with wooden floors and walls painted in soft greens and yellows. A kitchen hummed in the back, smells of soup and bread drifting out, while upstairs held cots for those needing a night off the cold. But the heart was the music room. A corner with rugs, chairs, and a small stage, guitars and a beat-up piano lining the walls. Tom stood there opening day, August 15, 2028. His throat tight as folks streamed in, old faces like Hank and Ruby, new ones with wary eyes and worn shoes. "Welcome to Harmony House," he said, voice rough but clear over the chatter. "This ain't just a place to crash, it's a place to find yourself. We've got food, beds, and music. Stick around, see what it's about." He picked up his guitar, strumming "Hush Now, My Darlin'," and the room stilled. Hank clapped a rhythm on his knee, Ruby swayed, and a kid, a skinny girl named Mia with braids and a gap-toothed grin, edged closer, eyes wide. When he finished, she tugged his sleeve. "Mr. Tom, can I play that song?" "You bet, kid," he said, handing her the guitar. "It's yours now, too." Mia fumbled the chords, giggling as Tom guided her fingers, and soon others joined, kids plucking strings, adults tapping out beats. Ellie taught a group scales on the piano, her laugh ringing out, while Jake hauled trays of sandwiches from the kitchen. It wasn't perfect, fights broke out sometimes. Funds ran tight, but it worked. Harmony House became a pulse, a place where people like Hank taught budgeting to folks starting over, where Ruby patched clothes and swapped stories, where Thomas music stitched it all together. One night, after a class, Mia ran up, her braids bouncing. "Mr. Tom, I wrote something." She strummed a clumsy tune, singing, "Sky so big, but I ain't small." Her voice wobbled, but it was hers, and Thomas' eyes burned. "That's beautiful, Mia," he said, voice thick. "Keep it going." She beamed, scampering off, and Ellie slid beside him, her arm looping through his. "You're changing lives, Daddy," she said softly, "just like you always wanted." He shook his head, humble. "We are, kiddo. You and Jake, you're the heart of this." Winter 28 tested them, pipes froze. Heating bills spiked, but they pushed through. By spring 29, Harmony House was a fixture, stories rippling out. A teen who found her voice in a choir. A man who wrote his first song and got a job. A woman who been silent for years, strumming her pain into chords. Tom taught everyday guitar, voice, whatever they learn. His classroom, a mess of laughter and off-key notes. The lullaby became the anthem, sung by voices rough and bright, a thread tying them to something bigger. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Tom stood outside, the building's fresh paint glowing in the dusk. Ellie and Jake joined him, their hands full of coffee cups, and they watched kids chase each other across the patched-up lot. "We did it," Tom said, voice low with wonder. "Didn't think I'd live to see something like this?" "You earned it," Jake said, firm. "Every note you played brought you here." Tom smiled, the lullaby humming in his throat. It wasn't just his song anymore, it was theirs, and it was alive. Spring bloomed over Chicago with a gentle warmth, the kind that softened the city's edges and coaxed green from the cracked sidewalks. Harmony House stood proud on the south side, its brick walls weathered but strong, a beacon in the morning light. The lot out front, once a tangle of weeds and broken glass, now stretched smooth with fresh sod, dotted with picnic tables and a rickety swing set scavenged from a thrift sale. On this Saturday, May 15th, the air buzzed with life, kids shrieking as they chased a soccer ball, adults milling around with paper plates piled with barbecue, and music spilling from the open doors, bright and alive. Tom Carver stood at the heart of it, his guitar slung across his chest, silver hair glinting under a faded ball cap. The years had carved deeper lines into his face, etched a stoop into his shoulders, but his eyes burned with a quiet fire as he strummed a chord. The crowd, folks from the shelter, neighbors, volunteers gathered in a loose semicircle, their chatter fading as he started into Hush Now. My darling, the lullaby rolled out, steady and warm, its notes threading through the breeze. Ellie stood beside him, her dark hair streaked with a few grays now, her arm around a little girl 4 years old, all curls and giggles, her daughter Lila. Jake was there too, a toddler perched on his shoulders, his sandy hair mussed from the wind. They built a life here, a family woven into the fabric of this place. And today was a celebration 5 years since Harmony House opened its doors. Tom's voice, rougher with age, carried a weight that hushed the crowd. Kids like Mia, now a lanky 13. Her braids swapped for a short bob, swayed along, her own guitar in hand. Hank tapped a rhythm on his knee, his wiry frame hunched but steady, while Ruby clapped from a folding chair, her foghorn laugh cutting through. The song wasn't just Tom's anymore, it was theirs. A thread that stitched this patchwork community together. When he hit the last note, voices joined in, raw and sweet, a chorus rising over the clatter of the city. Sleep now, my angel, I'll always be here. Ellie's hand found his, squeezing tight as the sound faded. You hear that, Daddy? She said, her voice soft but fierce. You built something amazing. Tom shook his head, humble as ever. We did, kiddo. Together. He looked out at the faces, some he'd known from the streets, some new, all part of this, and his throat tightened. Didn't he think I'd get here? Not after everything. Jake set the toddler little Tommy, named for his granddad, down to toddle off, then clapped Tom's shoulder. You earned it, man. Every note you played, every cold night you fought through it brought you right here. Tom's eyes glistened, but he grinned, brushing it off. Guess I'm too damn stubborn to quit. The day rolled on, ribs sizzling on a grill, Jake manned, kids painting murals on the back wall, a pickup band of Harmony House grads jamming on the porch. Tom moved through it all, slower now, his joints creaking from old injuries, but alive with purpose. He stopped by Mia, who was teaching Lila a clumsy chord. Look at you, hotshot, he said, ruffling her hair. Gonna take my job soon? Nah, Mr. Tom, Mia laughed, her gap-toothed grin long gone but the spark still there. You're the boss. I'm just keeping up. Lila giggled, plucking a string that twanged off-key. Grandpa, play my song. Always, Peanut, Tom said, crouching stiffly to strum a quick riff. Her squeal of delight hit him like sunlight, and he felt it, the echo of Ellie at that age, the years he lost and the ones he gained. Later, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of fire and rose, Tom took the stage again, a rickety platform they built last summer. The crowd settled, kids sprawled on blankets, adults leaning against tables, the air thick with the smell of smoke and sweet tea. Ellie and Jake flanked him, Lila on Ellie's hip, little Tommy tugging Jake's jeans. Tom adjusted the mic, his hands steady despite the tremble in his fingers, and spoke, voice rough but clear. 5 years ago, this place was a dream, he said, eyes sweeping the faces. I was lost, didn't know who I was, where I belonged. But I had a song, and it brought me home to my girls, to all of you. Harmony House ain't just walls and a roof. It's us. Every one of you who walked through that door, picked up a guitar, found a voice, you're the heart of it. So this one for you. He started Hush Now, my darling, slow and deliberate, the notes ringing out like a prayer. Ellie joined in, her voice blending with his, then Jake's low hum, then Mia's bright soprano. One by one, the crowd picked it up, Hank's gravelly bass, Ruby's off-key belt, kids stumbling over words they learned by heart. It swelled, a wave of sound that drowned out the city's roar, raw and beautiful and whole. Tom's eyes burned, tears slipping free as he played, his heart thundering with something bigger than himself. This was at the end of a road he walked blind, the start of something he never dared dream. The last chord hung in the air, and he set the guitar down, hands shaking as he turned to Ellie. She threw her arms around him, Lila squished between, and Jake pulled them all in, little Tommy clinging to his leg. I'm home, Tom choked out, voice breaking. For good. The crowd erupted not just applause, but cheers, whistles, a roar of love that shook the ground. Ellie sobbed into his shoulder. "You never left us, Daddy." "Not really." Jake's grip tightened, his own eyes wet, and Maggie watching from the porch. Her apron still on smiled through tears, the years of grief melting into pride. The night deepened, stars prickling the sky like scattered notes, and Harmony House glowed laughter, music, the clink of bottles raised in toasts. Tom sat with his family, the lullaby echoing in his mind. No longer a cry into the dark, but a song of belonging. He'd been lost, broken, a man without a name. But he found his way through every chord, every frozen night, every face that carried him here. The song had brought him home, and now it lived on, in voices young and old, in a place that never stopped singing. As the fireflies flickered and the last notes faded, Tom looked out at the crowd, his people, his purpose, and knew this was the end of one story and the start of another. The lullaby wasn't his alone anymore. It was theirs forever. Hey everyone, if Tom's journey has brought a tear to your eye, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to share it with you. Leave a comment. What does this story mean to you? Do you think Tom's story is over? Or is there more to sing? Tell us what's on your heart. We're reading every word. Thanks for coming along. Stay tuned for more stories.